At last, a controversial new motion picture that dares to deal with a serious contemporary problem which every man, woman, and child must come to grips with at least once in their lifetime.
Don't make them like this anymore. Why don't you go ahead and sit inside? Go ahead. This new upholstery, only 27,000 miles, and we just gave the engine a complete overhaul yesterday. Go ahead, kick her over. Isn't that the quietest engine you've ever heard in your life?
Used cars, rolling off the blocks this summer into a theater near you.
Hey, Stan, trust me, huh? Happy motoring, Stan.
Trust me.
Trust me. Trust me? Trust me. Hey. Trust me. Hey, come on, trust me.
Hello, hello. I'm Katie, and welcome to Retromade, your pop culture rewind. Today, we're going to go back all the way to July of 1980. I wasn't even born yet, for the satirical black comedy Used Cars. And as always, we'll touch on all the other happenings of the time. I am very excited to have new guests to the show to help me fill out my final episodes of this season.
Whoa.
Evan Moody and Andrew Groothuis. Did I get that right?
Got it.
Okay.
You got it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining me. And tell us a little bit about you and the shows that you do.
Evan, you want to go? Sure. Evan Moody, one half of Nothing Worthwhile with Moody and Groo. We started back, I think, all the way back, maybe 2017, 2018. We did some stuff on YouTube, and then we did some initial podcasts. We probably got on your radar when we did some podcasts in regards to Rocky, and Ryan Rebalkin, the CEO of last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, reached out to us and said, love your stuff. It's a cute train wreck of a podcast. And we were like, okay, we think that's we think that's good. But nonetheless, he offered us he wanted a slot for Jean-Claude Van Damme. And Andy and I, well, I won't speak for Andy, but I'm a fan of Jean-Claude, but I certainly don't know him inside and out like I would perhaps Sly and Arnold. So we came up with Nothing Worthwhile presents VanDammit. So we do once a month when we can get to it, Jean-Claude Van Damme related podcast. We'll give a quick shout out. We'll be doing a 1994 Street Fighter with Raul Julia coming up in a week or two. And Nothing Worthwhile is just the stuff that Andy and I like to talk about, which is pop culture, sports, music, movies, television, a lot of stuff that you guys cover here on the Last of the Action Heroes in your podcast. Somewhat nostalgia driven, and of course, little Howard Stern, and probably our favorite topic, the WWE. We're big pro wrestling fans, so that's it. Glad to be here.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah, me too. I'm Moody Groothuis. I'm from South Florida, Broward County, Coconut Creek. I'm a teacher down here, and in my spare time, what little I have, which is to say I have nothing but spare time. I do podcasting with my partner, a friend of over 30 years right there. Evan, we go way back. We met before you were born. I think, yeah, pretty much. And contrary to what he says, after doing Ryan's, filling in for you, which is impossible to do, but we tried our best. Filling in for you, I learned something. He actually does speak for me because I did give him a blanket power of attorney, mistakenly about 17 years ago over a WrestleMania bet. So yeah, he does speak for me on all accounts. Referring to Nothing Worthwhile universe. But yeah, it's great to be here. We thank you for having us, and very, very much looking forward to it.
Well, without further ado, let's open the time capsule to set the stage for this 1980-ness. Popular TV, according to Nielsen ratings, this is the 79-80 season, which is wild. So Three's Company was the number one show. And listeners, I just covered that in depth in the last episode, actually. Alice, MASH, Dallas, Flow, which I've not seen, but is a spinoff of Alice, The Jeffersons, The Dukes of Hazzard, One Day at a Time, Archie Bunker's Place, which this was its premiere season, 8 is Enough, and Taxi.
Boy.
Were you guys watching those? Do you remember that?
Ooh, I got goosebumps listening to that. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame class right there. I mean, that's almost can't be touched. I mean, I was a viewer of the majority of all those shows that he listed. Was Dallas in there? Did you mention?
Yes, it was number 4.
I mean, that was Moody Family House. That one. Yeah, that was Friday night. That was Friday night standard viewing. I mean, the whole family sat in front of the television. So, yeah, you don't see shows like that anymore. That's a tremendous list.
Yeah, that was my Friday night, CBS Friday night. I think it started with, I want to say it started with The Incredible Hulk at 8, Dallas at 9, and Dukes of Hazzard at 10. And that was my Friday night from age like 5 on, which was in 1980. Three's Company was all. I think I discovered Three's Company more in reruns.
Me too.
When it was on every day after school, behind different strokes and what's happening in all those. But yeah, Taxi was my dad's favorite, and he passed that right down to me. That's one of the 5 or 6 shows I've seen every single episode of every season, all 5 seasons of Taxi. That's probably my number one TV show of all time. So yeah, plenty. And I'm a huge Dallas guy. I have not caught up to our 14 original seasons, but I've probably seen 10 or 11 of them. So yeah, that's quite a list.
The early 80s, a very different feel from, when we get later into the mid 80s is more saturated with all those sitcoms from the 80s. And that's like my jam. But I'm like Three's Company, The Jeffersons, like these I've seen in syndication. And Taxi is one that I am now just discovering. It's on some, I don't know, Cozy TV or something. And I love Tony Danza. So I'm enjoying discovering Taxi.
Well, think of the whole cast. I mean, every single one of them became major stars in their own right. Starting with Judd Hirsch, and then Andy Kaufman at that time was probably the biggest star, I think, from if history tells us anything. But Danny DeVito, are you kidding me? He was the Fonzie of that show. I know it was supposed to be Kaufman, but everybody on that show went on to big things. Fortunately, Jeff Conaway kind of hit a wall, but he was a star before then from Grease.
Yep.
So yeah, what a show. Evan likes that show too, I think.
Taxi?
Yeah. Who's talking about that?
So there's a couple shows that ended this season that weren't necessarily in the top rated shows, but I wanted to call them out because they're fun. Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. I remember watching that on Cartoon Express.
Yeah, that was a cartoon.
Yeah, it was a cartoon,
Captain
but I loved
Caveman.
it. Yeah. I loved that.
I've never heard of that one.
You haven't seen that one? Oh,
no.
It's good.
Now, this is pathetic because I see exactly where you're going. Say that show. I heard what you were going to say.
The Ropers.
I have seen that one. I haven't seen Captain Caveman, but I'm the guy who's seen the Ropers.
Well,
was that a spinoff of Three's Company?
It was, and kind of unfortunate because they were supposed to be able to come back if it didn't fare well. It was a spinoff of the Helen and Stanley. If it didn't go beyond one season, they couldn't come back, and it went 1.5 seasons, and so that's why we got Mr. Furley.
I think it'll be because Mr. Furley was too popular. Well, because the show actually got funnier, I think, in its later seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's just me. But the Ropers also Jeffrey Tambor, who was he played like 20 different roles on Three's Company, and then he took that one role on the spinoff, and he went off from that. So that was, I think, his big beginning or maybe not. He was in a couple of movies. He was in like And Justice for All with Al Pacino or something. But yeah, the Ropers I've seen, and it was funny. They're funny people. It was funny. It was cute.
Also, the Shogun miniseries, which I've not seen, but I've heard a lot about. Did you guys watch that miniseries?
Who starred in that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that like Japanese
No,
martial arts?
that was kind of the era of the television miniseries.
Yeah.
You would get Roots, and
Mm-hmm.
those were kind of big back in the day. Those miniseries.
I don't recall that one though.
Also, Hawaii Five-0, this was its final season, and I didn't realize that it started in 1968.
All right, well, that's before my time. So, and that's one that went under my radar. I have never ever seen either the older or the new version.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not familiar with that. I know Albert and Jack Lord and Bookham Dano. I know that stuff, but I've never actually seen an episode.
I don't think I have either. I think I conflate that with Magnum PI.
Yes, Hawaii-based.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, Hawaii-based. Yeah.
One show that premiered this season that I haven't had an opportunity to talk about, and it's one of my favorites, is The Facts of Life. It premiered in 1980.
Or
1979.
That is a classic.
Love it.
Yeah. That's one of the theme songs that everybody knows, and everybody knows the boarding school, Joe, Tooney, Natalie, Blair.
Mm-hmm.
Joe was like my big teenage crush.
Was she?
Oh my God. Nancy McKeon, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Love The Facts of Life. Mrs. Garrett, that was a crush too. No,
really?
just kidding.
Wait, you were a Joe guy?
Well, is Nancy McKeon, but through The Facts of Life, I discovered her on Kings and I knew that TV movie about camp with Michael Joe Fox, and I fell in love with her there.
Here we go. He's gonna really try to. He's gonna go TV deep on
deep cuts,
dude.
Deep cuts.
To impress you, but no, I mean I was a Blair guy.
Blair, yeah.
Blair and Tootie. Joe, loved Joe. She was kind of like she was like the tomboy of the group.
She rode
The
motorcycles.
Facts of Life is just, hearing you talk about it, it still has a pretty strong social media presence. Facts of Life, like. I think like Natalie went on a podcast, the actress, and they were supposed to be maybe a reboot, and she was dishing on how that got squashed, and always gets a strong reaction. But The Facts of Life is a classic TV show.
I'd love to see that. Well, this first season was very different from the later seasons. It had all those other girls, including a young Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Facts of Life was stern off of.
Oh, Different Strokes.
And well, there
Now,
you go.
was it Miss Garrett somehow related to Mr. Drummond? Did she work for him? How
She
was the
their
connection
housekeeper,
there?
I think, wasn't she?
Yes. Okay.
And then she got the job as like the house mistress of the boarding school, or whatever. That's what
The
it
house
was called.
mom. Was the house
Wasn't
mom?
it like the house mistress or something? But I think that's what they called it back. I were head mistress or something. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the nature. But those girls were on a couple of episodes. I know Toodle was, and Molly Ringwald was. The first season of those girls they were friends with Kimberly. So and there were a couple of crossovers that first season. I do know.
Wow. What a shared universe. Well, they were ahead of Marvel by 40 years.
Oh, I love
shows
crossover.
All of those shows were way ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I know you guys are wrestling guys, so I purposefully looked up who the big wrestling guys were from
Give it to us.
1980.
Give it
You'll have to tell me if I'm wrong, but I asked Chuck.
I would know. I would know because I was not a fan at the time. Evan was, so
I know most of them because I did watch wrestling in the 80s with my grandpa. He was a big wrestling guy, but mine, I was more later 80s. But I totally Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, totally know those guys. Dusty Rhodes, I don't really know, but I've heard of him. Andre the Giant.
Massive.
Harley Race and Bob Backlund. I don't know who they are.
Well, Bob was a WWF guy based out in New York, and Andy and I certainly grew up watching the big Madison Square Garden shows. He's what we would call a white meat baby face. He was a strict good guy, collegiate background, real legitimate amateur wrestler. But once Vince McMahon Jr. got a hold as the owner, he wanted to take it to more entertainment-based. And Hulk Hogan, it was just a matter of time before he found a guy that would really, cater more to the entertainment side. And was it Harley Race? Did she mention Harley Race? He was, not in the sense he was a lowbrow. He was more of a brawler, tattoo. He had the belly, barrel-chested guy, but he was the NWA. He was the other big, at that time, competing territory. And again, Ric Flair, who was more, can make a case more flashy, more entertainment-based. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of time before Ric Flair, took over on that side. So, but Harley Race and Bob Backlund, absolute huge names.
Comment about that. Interestingly enough, all the guys you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Evan, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 1980, that's the period we're talking about. That's pre-WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Nitro, everybody you mentioned at that time was an A-list wrestling star except Hulk Hogan, I think, at that time.
He wasn't big yet.
That was before his Flair was huge, Rhodes was huge, but Hogan wasn't really there yet, was he? 1980, right?
Yeah, I think Hogan, I think more 82, 83 was the build, Rocky 3, and then, of course, the big explosion with the WWF. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was also reading, so I know who Roddy Piper is, and he was, according to ChatGPT, a rising star at the time. He wasn't big yet, but he was on his way. And then I know who Terry Funk is, more from movies later, Over the Top.
Absolutely.
But
You're right.
I didn't know he had a brother, Dory Funk Jr.
Dory Funk. More than one. Hoss Funk and Jimmy Jack Funk. Actually, Hoss and Dory are the same person. But they had folk brothers. Hoss and Terry are actual brothers, though.
And then Superstar Billy Graham. I don't know who that is. Who's that?
Oh wow, Superstar was 70s. He, I think, really ushered in the muscle bound. I mean, he was
steroid era.
Yeah, big steroid. He was a big lifter with Arnold, Gold's Gym, Southern California, bleach blonde hair. And I think he set the precedent for a guy like Hulk Hogan. He was big bomb time in terms of his looks and his promos. And I think guys like Hulk Hogan really took a lot from him and, pushed it ahead.
Yeah, he must have been on his way out at 1980 was maybe, you had mentioned he was big in the 70s.
He was, he left for a while and he came back in the early mid 80s with the whole new gimmick, shaved head, kind of a kung fu master. Didn't really connect, and it was just a matter of time before he was out. But Superstar, big name, massive name.
Do you guys remember anybody else from the time that I didn't list?
At that time, 1980, were the Horsemen up and running at that time?
Yeah, but we were New York guys. I mean, when I hear 1980 wrestling, I think of, it's still at that point. I was a young kid and it was on locally, Channel 9, grainy, still black and white. The big explosion didn't happen for a couple of years.
Was I think a big star around that time. AWA, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking of my childhood. We grew up in New York. Still, for the most part, WWF was the big territory in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Wrestling, 80s, anonymous. Well, let's move on to music. Billboards. This is a specific week, the top billboards, July 11th, 1980. I don't even think I know what this song is. The number one song is called Coming Up by Paul McCartney and the Wings.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I looked at it.
I know that one.
Billy Joel has the number two song with...
we should know that. 1980. 1980.
Number two.
All right, hold on. Okay.
I'll let you guess this one.
Well, I'm not gonna. I want to just talk this out. Can you mind, Katie? So 80. I got a Groo. Are we looking at Glass Houses?
I think so. Or is that Nylon Curtain?
No, it's not. I don't believe it's Nylon Curtain. I think Nylon Curtain is 82, 83.
All right, then let's lock in on one. Let's pick one.
You guys picking albums? Are those albums?
Oh, wow. We got to go through the track listing. What was the one at the time?
I don't know. I'm thinking Glass Houses, maybe at 52nd Street. I think that's after The Stranger already. Give a guess, Gru. I'm curious to what you think.
I'm gonna go Glass Houses, and I'm gonna go the song. I'm probably getting the album anywhere on the song where I'm gonna go Just the Way You Are.
No, that's Stranger. But let me hear it, Katie.
Then I'm wrong.
No, I don't know. You might be right.
I don't know.
You may be right.
Are we locked into that? Do you have an alternative guess, Evan?
You're better at this at Joel's songbook than I am. So
If I'm going Glass Houses, I mean, I think you may be right. No, was that 52nd Street? I'll just say, you go Just the Way You Are. I'll say you may be right. Katie, give us, what do we got?
Okay. All right.
It's still rock and roll to me.
Oh, okay. I was right. All right. So that's Glass Houses. That's Glass Houses. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that was Billy's. That was Billy's real first foray, I think, into rock and roll in the sense, more arena rock, more guitars, a little bit toned down on the piano on that one.
okay, so that's our first L of the show. Wow.
I do know the number 3 song. It's a song that we sang in like choir in high school. The Rose by Bette Midler.
Oh gosh.
The best cover of that was Family Guy.
Oh, you took my heat right there. As soon as she said that, I thought of that great scene from Family Guy where he starts singing. Just a great moment from Family Guy. Just a great
Even with this song, well, that's a classic song.
It is very good.
Good movie, underrated movie, I thought.
Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and it's only seed.
I do not know the number 4 song. I've never even heard of it. It's an Elton John song. Little
What
Genie.
year? 1980. Yeah, great song.
Little Genie.
Yeah. Oh, Genie. Oh, little Genie. I'm so in love with her.
Gru, was that on Greatest Hits?
Oh, yes. Greatest Hits 3. It was on Greatest Hits 3. Yes. Greatest Hits 3. Little Genie.
Yeah, Little Genie's
That's
a nice
yacht
song.
rock. That's his yacht rock period.
Yeah, it's not. I don't consider that prime Elton. I think the star was beginning to fall just ever so slightly there, but it's a nice song.
Yeah.
I went to a yacht rock show. My first one ever.
I just watched a documentary about yacht rock.
Yeah.
Okay, was that on Max?
Yeah, they're really good.
I saw the coming attraction and I was like, I got to see this.
You'll love it.
Yeah, real quick, has nothing to do, but I watched on Max, the Bee Gees have a documentary. And before the Bee Gees documentary, they had the trailer for the Yacht Rock documentary was the tagline. So, yeah, I love that stuff. I love that stuff. We put on Spotify the Yacht Rock playlist all the time.
Yeah, so Little Genie was, I remember it being hit, and it's on the Greatest Hits album, so, but that's basically the kind of song it is. And not one that you see much requests for in concert from Elton.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I've never heard of the song nor the group for the number 5 song. The Spinners?
Yes.
What was the song?
That's Can I guess?
Yeah.
It was Rubber Band Man.
Yeah.
The Rubber Band Man.
It's Cupid / I've loved you for a long time.
They had no one song? Wow.
I know Rubber Band Man. Yeah, everyone knows Rubber Band.
That's all I
don't know that one. I do not know that one.
I thought I was music genius, and there we go. We're done. Two L's.
I think I know the number 6 song, but I didn't know the artist. I think I know Steal Away. The artist is Robbie Dupree.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's a yacht rock staple, I believe, Robbie Dupree, to Steal Away.
Okay.
And I have a very deep cut for my partner, Evan, here. What song did Robbie Dupree sing for the WWF Pile Driver album, which became an entrance theme for a very popular tag team?
Oh, gosh.
Tick tock, we got to move it along. So if you don't know it right away, you're not going to get it.
It's definitely not Grab Them Cakes.
Well, no, it's not. It's called Girls and Cars, the theme song for Strike Force, Rick Martel and Tino Santana. You can go back to the WWE.
Katie, I give you permission to edit that out.
Just try to prove a little fury, that's all.
Funky Town by The Lips is number 7.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
I didn't know the name of the group. Olivia.
Well, the song, though.
I do know this. I do know the song.
Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John has the number 8 song.
Physical?
It's not Physical. Can you name one other?
No. Well, it's not Hopeless and Devoted to You because that was in 78.
Yeah.
Is it something from Xanadu? I don't know. Xanadu?
I don't know if I know it. Magic?
Yeah.
No, I don't know it. I don't know.
No.
It. It's not what I'm thinking of.
Jermaine Jackson with Let's Get Serious. I don't think I know that song.
I have no
Jermaine
idea.
Jackson.
I don't know that one. Not a Jermaine Jackson connoisseur.
I believe one of the Jackson brothers recently passed away. That's the only thing.
Tito.
Yeah. And rounding out the top 10 is Let Me Love You Tonight by Pure Prairie League. You guys know that?
But
Well, I know
I didn't know.
Pure Prairie League, I believe, is right in that Yacht Rocky. I think they're somehow connected with Toto, and I want to say
One of the Porcara brothers?
No, maybe, but was the bass player? Did he go on to the Eagles? Was that what's his name? Played it originally?
Timothy B. Schmidt?
Let's move on to what was going on in the world. The Summer Olympics, 22nd Summer Olympics Games open in Moscow, led by the United States. But this was when 66 nations boycotted the event because of the Soviet-Afghan War.
Okay. And this was the year. This was the year of the Miracle on Ice, the hockey game. I think that there was, there you go. And the Iran hostage situation was happening. I think Jimmy Carter was trying to keep things together with a band-aid, and Reagan came in and kind of started fixing.
Can you she said now he's Peter Jennings.
Are you a history teacher? What subject do you teach? Are you?
But see, I learned all this from the movie Miracle, so it's got nothing to do with my.
Well, it actually is fitting because those things come up in the movie. Both of those things that you talked about were
exactly Mike.
Yeah. 7 people died in a stampede to see Pope John Paul II in Brazil. Do you guys remember hearing about that?
No, I don't.
No, but I was 5 years old at the time, and I remember hearing, I remember specific things. So what else was going on? Because some I do remember and some I don't.
Hurricane Allen forms in the Atlantic Ocean, so that would have been your guys' side, will go on to become the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin with winds of 190 miles per hour, which for the rest of the world is 305 kilometers per hour.
Now, I do remember growing up and there was a hurricane that did hit New York. And I remember as a kid, we went outside during the eye of the storm, that brief moment where, it's kind of calm. But I do believe that we were hit with a pretty strong hurricane in New York when we were kids, for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I remember when I go into the eye of the storm and like Hurricane Andrew down here, like a couple of idiots blasting John Cougar Mellencamp driving down Sample Road towards the beach.
We got the day off from school.
We're good. You're right.
Peter Sellers died. He was Bobo, Pink Panther, the Goon Show. He was only 54. I don't know what he died of, but he died.
He died. I remember. I don't remember. I know of him. He died of a heart attack. He was kind of one of those Andy Kaufman type guys. Like you never knew who the real guy was, and he was just so eclectic. In his movies, he did. He was the Inspector Clouseau in all the Pink Panther movies. He did a really good movie called Being There, about I think a mental institution. And I think that was his last movie, or his last movie actually was a Pink Panther movie released like 2 years after he died, where they did all the scenes with like patchwork, like outtakes. It was really strange. I forget which one it was, but yeah, he was died too soon. He would have been a superstar.
Did he do Dr. Strangelove? Was that a Peter Sellers film?
Yes, that's a great one. Yeah,
I remember that.
He played like 5 different parts in that one.
Oh, that's fun. I love it. Well, that happens in this movie that we're going to cover too. It's fun when that happens. A couple people got married. Raquel Welch married French-American TV documentary producer Andre Weinfeld. They divorced in 1990.
So she cheated on Andy Dufresne, is what you're saying?
No, that
Wasn't
was
she?
She was with. No, you're thinking of Susan.
No,
Sarandon.
I know. I'm saying she was the poster on the wall, wasn't she?
Right. That's right. She was. Good call. I missed your joke. She was.
I love Raquel.
Oh, she's one of the historical beauties. Yeah. Actor Michael Biehn weds Carlene Olsen. I think they might still be married. And Senator Elizabeth Warren marries her law professor husband, Bruce Mann. Donna Summer got married to Bruce Sudano. He was an award-winning arranger, but those famous people got married. Oh,
Donna Summer.
Donna Summer. She's not still with us, is she?
Yeah, she passed away like 2 years ago, I want to say.
Okay.
Her and Irene Cara in like the same year. That's strange. They were like the same kind of period, same type of music.
Yeah, I think Donna Summer had a much bigger career. I think Irene Cara was mostly. Why do I feel like she was mostly an actress and then she had a crossover hit with fame?
Because that's exactly where she was.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, one more death. The only reason I noted it was because you won't even know him. It's just that it's the last Shah of Iran, Persia at the time. He was only 60, so in Cairo, he died.
So that was the Shah of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Was his bodyguard the Iron Sheik in real life? I'm being serious, and you know that.
I think
the Iron Sheik, who famously lost the title to Hulk Hogan, which set rock and wrestling and Hulkamania, in real life was a legitimate amateur wrestler, was an Olympic gold medalist, and he was the bodyguard for the Shah of Iran. And I'm thinking that's probably the same guy. And
what role did he play in this death?
No, I think he had already, by this time, he had already emigrated to the United States.
That's true.
He was in pro wrestling.
His documentary was really interesting. Did you guys see
tremendous,
that?
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Very sad. Yeah, tremendous. Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to used cars, the big movies that were out at this time, Airplane. Cheech and
One
Chong,
of the funniest of all time.
We'll talk about that, but Cheech and Chong's next movie, Caddyshack, and Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It was released in May, but in July it was still topping the box office.
So that's like 3 of the greatest of all time right there. Empire, Caddyshack is top of the list. What was the third? Airplane. I mean, those are 3 movies that are constantly referred to and watched today consistently. So are those? I mean, you don't play that anymore, do you?
No,
really?
No, you don't. You don't. There's no movies anymore. Actually, I say that, and there's one movie out now that I want to see. But other than that, that very rarely happens. The new
But
Gladiator.
they don't have staying power.
Yeah.
Nothing has the kind of staying power that these.
You're right. This season on Retromade, I've dedicated to who I deem the ultimate everyman, Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell. Do you guys have any feelings or fandom that you would like to share about either of them before we start talking about used cars?
Well, when you say Kurt Russell, I obviously, watching used cars, we'll talk about used cars. I mean, you can see, the talent's there. He's got the look. He's certainly got the acting chops. And, we've covered Kurt a bit on the Nothing Worthwhile podcast. We did Escape from New York. And I think, in terms of action, he was able to deliver some high concept action movies. He's got the comedic chops. You can see he's got the comedic chops as well. And I mean, he's a guy that I think has stayed fairly relevant throughout his entire career. I mean, he just did that Legacy of Monsters, which now they're dropping apparently a season 2. So, Kurt Russell for sure. I think Patrick Swayze, good. But when you tell me Patrick Swayze, I think his career obviously got cut a little short, obviously. But Kurt Russell for sure, just a tremendous actor.
Yeah, well, Kurt Russell, to echo what Evan said, Kurt Russell, I'll go even further, like, if you look at him, he's one of the great American success stories in Hollywood. He was a Disney guy. He was a Disney kid. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think this was his, like, first foray outside that Disney bubble of being, like, the kid. He was basically like a little bit of Shia LaBeouf. That's pretty much what he was when he was a kid. So then to stay, like Evan said, stay relevant. All I'm going to do is think about, you go to, I went through his filmography yesterday, and you got Tango and Cash, Overboard, The Thing, Escape from New York, Legal Escape from LA, an established character, all these things, and even to today, like even Christmas Chronicles, he's popular. He's still a dude who's above the title today, 40-something years or 50-something years after he was in all these Disney movies, and I still believe his performance as Herb Brooks is the greatest performance of a sports figure in any movie ever, and I will die on that hill. That's my Kurt Russell. Patrick Swayze, unfortunately, like Evan said, got cut down. But when I think of Patrick Swayze, I'll think Two Names, Larry and Dalton. He'll never not be those guys, The Outsiders and Roadhouse. But, obviously went further than that. Ghost is, one of the greats. And he's got some Point Break is a cult classic. So he's up there too. But Kurt Russell, if you look at him, he's a kind of guy who can't be bad for some reason. Like he's already so endearing. Even if a movie sucks, he was always something to watch. So he's something else.
Agreed. I mean, obviously, I picked these two for a couple of reasons, but all those movies you mentioned, we've covered on RetroMade. So you guys go back and listen to them if you haven't, listeners. Thank you. I mean, it's impossible to not like Kurt. Even like this season doing this, there's a fair number of movies that I hadn't seen before, but there's only one movie that Kurt did that I did not enjoy. It's probably a genre issue for me. Stargate.
We saw that together in the rules. Evan and I. I remember. Stargate.
I remember liking it.
We liked it.
It's been a long time. It's been a long, long time since I've seen that. But yeah, I mean,
did not.
We liked it, but it's more of a genre, more like you said, not really a Kurt Russell thing. I don't remember that movie for him. But he's still incredibly likable. He still encaptures a performance. There's really only two kinds of characters he plays that I don't like. And that's when he's kind of a wuss. And you see that in like Unlawful Entry and Breakdown. And Breakdown, he's kind of like, and Breakdown I love. Breakdown's a great movie, but that kind of character is the only time I kind of want him to, be a little more of the badass, an executive decision a little bit. He's like flashy in a tux. He's, a little bit of a wuss. But every time when he's more of a tough guy, he's great. He's just great.
But he's the everyman in those movies. He's just your average husband or your average, and so he's put in these. Yeah. No, he's great. Do you guys think that Kurt Russell and Patrick Swayze resemble each other at all?
The mullets.
Nice head of
hair. A little bit. Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah. All right. I asked all my first-time guests that, so I was just curious.
Not really for me. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing there other than maybe a little bit of a southern drawl. But no, I wouldn't see them competing for parts really.
But they do. Like they're very.
Do they really?
You can. Yeah. Like they're very. They again. They're like everyman. They're like they're not this muscled up, roided. They're just kind of they're extremely attractive, but in a normal, achievable way. And
see, I see that in Kurt Russell. I see Patrick Swayze as more of a like a teen heartthrob kind of guy. Never saw Kurt Russell as that. Kurt Russell was always in like the Stallone, where for like movie star, not, I don't think, he's a handsome dude, but I don't look at him and I think sex symbol.
Oh.
But Patrick Swayze was treated that way.
Yeah.
He was a pinup guy. I don't think Kurt Russell ever was that kind of performer. Evan, do you have an opinion on that?
I think, I kind of agree with you. I think Patrick Swayze was a body guy, a little bit more of a body guy.
For sure.
His movies, he definitely, roided, no, but he was definitely a super
Fit.
shredded, lean guy. When I think of Kurt Russell, I do agree with Everyman. I see Kurt Russell, listening to you guys speak, Harrison Ford, I think those kind of Everyman, I kind of put Kurt Russell in that similar vein. I don't know if I would go full action star Stallone. I think Kurt was a little bit deeper, in his projects, but yeah, I think Kurt Russell was your 90s, 2000s Everyman. He had that, that run of, typical man thrown into atypical situations. And I did love Breakdown as well. A very fun movie.
I have questions, like,
what I want you to do, Gru, I want you to go tell tell Kurt Russell. I didn't like those movies. You were a pussy.
I was going to say that, like, when you see Kurt Russell, you're never thinking, like, I want to be him, because he's always in some kind of peril. And he's great at that. He's great at playing peril. When we look at Patrick Swayze, we're like, I would love to be that guy. Darlton, you look at him and say, I want to be him. That, to me, that's the big difference between the two.
But he's so cool, too. Kurt's really exudes coolness. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think I
have more in common with Kurt Russell, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listening to with Patrick Swayze, you mentioned Point Break. I totally that connected with me. Point Break is a genre defining. I mean, that's that first extreme action. I mean, Keanu Reeves. That's just a stunning performance there. I think Point Break is really kind of a legendary movie.
Brewing.
The other thing I was thinking about, with Body Guy, I mean, I think a lot of people also feel like Patrick Swayze was in probably one of the greatest Saturday Night Live skits of all time, the Chippendales with Chris Farley. I mean, it's on everyone's top 5, every listing of Saturday Night Live skits. That one is in your top 5, top 10 for sure.
100%.
So that's why I think of him as a little bit more of a body guy, because he had that real dancer, he had that real lift physique.
It's very nice.
I have a question for you, because I seem to be the only one in the world who likes this movie. Did you like 3,000 Miles to Graceland?
I've seen it, but so long ago, I don't recall anything from it. I thought about covering it, but I'm not going, because it's not in the 80s or the 90s, so I'm not.
It's a complete flop. But I seem to be the only one who liked it. I just wanted to ask because I saw it the other day again.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember anything.
And I was like, yeah, this is good stuff. But yeah, just wanted to ask. Sorry, I brought the thing to a screeching halt.
Well, no worries. I think it's finally time for us to start discussing the movie we're here to talk about. So let's get into the movie.
There we go.
Used Cars, July 11th, 1980. It's rated R, very clearly. It's pretty long. It's almost 2 hours. And Robert Zemeckis is the director, and I love all of his movies. So he also is one of the writers, but he's super well known. One of my favorites is Romancing the Stone. I love that movie. But also Death Becomes Her, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, all the Back to the Future movies. And there's a lot of the same actors in this film as well as in some of the Back to the Future movies. So, Robert Zemeckis.
He's a legend. And if you look at his filmography, every movie he's made, whether it was well received or not well received, it still had some kind of landing. It still had some kind of impact. I remember two of his movies that I've seen that I hated. I know Evan agreed with me on one because we saw it together. It was called What Lies Beneath. It was the movie I think that he made in the break between the two parts of Castaway with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. Harrison Ford trying to play a villain and not working. It was we hated that one. And there was another one I didn't like. Death Becomes Her. I did not like that at all. I did not like that at all. I maybe Running Steel wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's just so gaffy and out of whack. I only saw it once. But everything else, you're right. Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Castaway Forrest Gump, the innovation that he tries to do with, the Polar Express and A Christmas Carol. Like, he's one of those guys who's always looking to take the medium forward. And you're right. Romancing with Stone is a perfect 80s action romantic comedy. I mean, it is great. Then back to the future. What else can we say about Robert Zemeckis? Evan will try it now.
No, the only thing, watching this movie and learning it's a Robert, because when we got this assignment, I heard of it. I didn't know really anything about used cars. And as I'm watching Robert Zemeckis movie, to see this movie, which to me is, I won't give away, I'll let Katie guide, but he's, kind of a naughty rated R, your fun, naughty rated R, typical 80s, comedy, to where he took it is pretty stunning. I mean, this is, your basic 80s naughty, and then to where he went afterwards, you wouldn't really kind of clue in on it just by watching this movie. It was very interesting to me. That was the interesting part, was, wow, this is kind of the guy's beginnings, and look where he went beyond this movie.
Yeah, I didn't see a signature with it, but it was also, I didn't realize this, executive produced by John Milius and Steven Spielberg.
Yes, I did read that. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I don't know too much about it. Maybe Spielberg saw something in Robert Zemeckis at the time that he would move on to really greater things.
They were on like a World War II comedy, and they just didn't have time to do it. So Zemeckis did it, and they produced it.
What was it? What was it, Groove?
1941. With
that was one. That was a Mitch Moody. My dad loved that movie. A
Carossus Schroeder.
Yeah, I know, but Hollis Wood. I got a lot of fun memories when you mentioned that movie. Yeah, that was one of my dad's favorites. Always laughed at that one.
The other writer was Bob Gale. So both Robert Zemeckis directed it, but he was also one of the writers. And I think they might be like, they teamed up on the Back to the Future movies. So that's where what Bob Gale's known for. The music was Patrick Williams, which I had not heard that before, but he has scored more than 200 films.
Wow. I never heard of him.
He received a 1980 Oscar nomination for Breaking Away. Not heard of that.
What? Breaking Away, that's the bicycle movie, right?
Yeah, that's Dennis Quaid, Jackie Earle Haley, Daniel Stern. You'll love that.
Oh,
that's an incredible movie about but it's comedy. It's very funny.
Okay,
it's very funny about growing up in Indiana. It's a great movie, classic. Look it up. Oh my God,
I will. He also did All of Me, Swing Shift, which we covered also with Kurt.
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Cuba, The Grass Harp, and he did the music for Columbo, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and The Bob Newhart Show.
Wow, those are classics right there as well.
If I just did one of those, I'd retire and be happy for the rest of my life. These guys have hundreds of. It's amazing. Wow. Something.
Newhart and Mary Tyler Moore were, again, genre-defining shows of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys, if they're alive or they're still get money anytime one of those shows is on the air. It's amazing.
Well, we have Kurt Russell as our star here, a very young, I just love him. He's so attractive. He's so charming. I love Kurt Russell. He plays Rudy Russo. And then I was mentioning movies that people play multiple characters is fun. So this is a screwball where Jack Warden plays twins, Roy and Luke Fuchs. They're rivaling car dealership owners. Oh, I did want to mention this is a 6.7 on IMDb. I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Gru, you want to give it? I'll speak.
Are surprised?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think this is without giving away too much, this is right in that 1980 type of, like you said, screwball anything, but it was comedy. This is like an Animal House kind of. And to me, it was like a combo of like Slapshot and his bears a little bit, and it just had that kind of feel to it. That gruel 70s, just like overindulgence. So yeah, this is right. I'm not surprised at all that it's that popular. 6.7 on IMDb is high.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is actually, because the best movie, what is that, Shawshank, and it's like a 9.1 or something.
Yeah, so that's good. But what do you say, Evan? I still have something.
No, you got me.
Yeah,
I should have cut ahead, because when watching this, I hadn't spoken to Andy prior, but I agree. It's 80s naughty, standard naughty, Animal House, Bad News. I thought really Bad News Bears for sure. You're going to get, profanity. You're going to get a good kind of fun script. You're going to get naked breasts. And put that in a pot, stir. You got your typical 80s naughty comedy. And so I couldn't agree more. Kept my attention. I had some laugh out loud moments with the movie. It's, not going to break any ground, but it's a fun, your typical 80s naughty comedy. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I have a feeling that most people have not seen this movie, so I will provide a little synopsis for you. When the owner of a struggling used car lot is killed, it's up to the lot's hotshot salesman, Kurt Russell, to save the property from falling into the hands of the owner's ruthless brother and used car rival. Used cars. Yeah, so that's Jack Warden playing the rival owners, and he's a twice Oscar nominated for supporting roles in Heaven Can Wait and Shampoo. He was also in 12 Angry Men, and he was Saul from While You Were Sleeping. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Well, I'll just say when I put this movie on, I saw that it was Jack Warden. I knew there was just, if I wasn't going to like it, I wasn't going to hate it. Like Jack Warden to me is just, when you think of 70s, 80s, even 90s, acting, comedy, Jack Warden just, it's kind of like a blanket, like a nice, he's just, he's always a lot of fun on screen. So I knew once I saw his name on there, I knew I was going to have some enjoyment with this movie for sure.
He's incredible. What he always was. He could go from the juror, the racist juror in 12 Angry Men in the 1950s, to just super broad slapstick type comedy in this, and Justice for All, who plays a crazy judge. He's hilarious in that. And he also brings Sherrard in movies like The Champ. If you've ever seen The Champ, he plays the manager of John Boyden.
Right.
And he just rips your heart out. So he was going to go down, and he's underrated. Jack Warden, should be talked about more. Great actor.
I agree. He is underrated. And I was reading that he didn't want to do this movie. The way they convinced him is because whoever was saying, oh, actors really like to play drunk, dead, or more than one part. And he gets to play both dead and more than one part.
Just hit the trifecta here.
Yeah.
Yep, you definitely will.
And then so Kurt Russell's the main, your typical like shady shyster type used car salesman. The other one is Jeff. He's the other sleazy salesman. He's played by Garrett Graham. And I didn't really know him from a lot. Did you guys?
Not by name. She's one of that guys who's basically, this is like the highest, the most starring role I've ever seen him in. He's usually a secondary player. I know he had a small role on Dallas for a season. Never a movie star, but it always plays like the dad in somebody else's movie. He's got one scene that made me laugh loud for a while, and that was the juxtaposition between the commercial and the interrogation about the commercial, that thawing by Roy Fuchs when he explains it away. Mm-hmm. And he just had me in hysterics. So he was great in this. And it was good to see a guy like him, who has been relegated to basically a background player in so many movies, get a real moment to shine. And I thought he did. So yeah, he was great in this.
They did a good job. Each character had like a story. Like they did build characters. He's very superstitious, and he has to overcome that, like that bar scene with
the ladder in the very beginning.
There's a lot of setups. I think that's one of the things this movie did really well. There was a ton of setups that at the beginning you're like, oh, I wonder where they're showing me this, and it is paid off later usually.
Hey, Zemeckis is the king of that. You got to do random movie like Back to the Future. So this was practice for that, set up and payoff.
Frank McRae, did you guys enjoy seeing him?
You know, because like listening to Andy talk about Garrett Graham, like Frank McRae, I couldn't tell you what he's in a ton of movies, and he plays the same comedic, hyperbolic sidekick, high pitched voice, crazy. You know, I mean, the scene where the dog pees on him while he's working on in the car and he's screaming. I mean, I laughed out loud. I mean, my wife's upstairs and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm hysterical laughing. I don't know much. You know, I guess I could cheat and look up his. I feel like this guy is in a ton of great
you'll know
sidekick
some of
roles.
them. So he was in Rocky 2. He's his boss. He's Rocky's boss.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
He was also in Lockup. Also Fist. So he's a Sylvester Stallone. He brings him in. He likes him a lot. Oh, also Paradise Alley, which I actually haven't seen. And Red Dawn, which he's a teacher at the beginning in Red Dawn.
I remember that. Patrick Swayze. There you go.
I believe he was a former NFL player too. I think because he's a big dude.
He's huge. He towers over Kurt Russell.
He's really funny in this movie. He is really funny in this movie.
So he plays his name is Jim. He's the mechanic. Right. But then when the car dealership cut into a football game with a commercial that's illegal, and then they get a ton of business the next day. And so they're like, well, I guess you got to be a car salesman. And he's dressed up like your typical used car salesman. He's like, I don't know how to sell cars. Yeah, he is. It's good. He's funny.
That's probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie is that first illegal commercial cut in. They got Lenny and Squiggy, they're doing, and I think it's David Landers timing him down. He's at the 20. Go! And he doesn't want to put the glasses and maroon and red, and it's just, and then of course you get the sight gag with the woman's dress rips off, and then when you see the family watching, I thought instantly Bad News Bears with the kid with the bone straight blonde hair and the dad's looking and the wife's hitting him, and just standard stuff that kind of works every time. It works every time.
It went on for a really long time, but somehow it did work. Like, it was funny. They managed to make that scene with the naked girl hilarious for a really long time by showing the different types of people watching it on TV. And and Jeff, he's like, oh my God, the car is red. And he can't deal with a red car. It's
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And outside the thing every time a new car drives out, it smashes the bumper off. And that the first time that happens, it knocked me out. And every time it happened after that, it was just broad Mel Brooksian, I think, type, or maybe more like airplane types. I don't know. It was just anything with everything, like kitchen sink comedy, and that's what it's so much fun.
He puts gum on a bumper.
Oh my God! Oh, I was laughing so hard. This is just so absurd. And yet, for some reason, I could totally see that happening with cars like that. It looks like the cars used to look like they were put together like Legos. No?
Well, first of all, I have a friend of mine who took a sabbatical from teaching for 1 year and worked in the car business. And obviously not in the 80s, but it's a cutthroat, dirty industry. So all that stuff, the whole setup of the beginning shot with the tire and the gum, and it's like, hearing everyone talk about it, they're kind of sleazeballs, but of course with a heart of gold. And there's Darth Vader across the street. So somehow as a viewer, you're like, they're doing stuff that's really slimy, but they're trying to prevent the bad guy from winning. So I'll forgive them. It's again, they're kind of bad people making bad decisions, but they got a heart of gold, so.
And it's like every stereotypical used car guy is
Right.
Put him
Cigarettes. You're right, Gru. It's grimy. The movie, like, you can almost smell it, cigarettes and their hands are dirty, it's just,
That's the vibe. That's the vibe. And then they hit home run with it, I think.
Well, you guys mentioned Squiggy and Lenny.
Lenny.
I have never seen that show, and I remember when I was doing the research for this, I was like, Michael McKean is in this, and then I was like, oh, I didn't recognize him like when I first watched it, a young Michael McKean, because I only know him as like the brother in Better Call Saul, but yeah, and then David Lander. So they're a team in this too.
Yes.
Those guys, I think, on Happy Days for a couple of episodes, and they joined that Laverne and Shirley spinoff. I've never seen Laverne and Shirley, but they were hilarious on Happy Days, and I know enough about them to know Lenny and Squee. But this is an example of the thing that movies did like this back then. They would root at the audience. They'd know that the audience was in on the joke. I remember even Martin Scorsese did it, where he had Cheech and Chong play a couple of thieves in After Hours a few years later, like just looking at the audience like that. And that's what I love about when you put people in roles like this. So this falls right into that category because it fits those two guys and the personalities of the characters they played perfectly. And it's like, at the time, like, we're thinking, like, all right, who do we move for this? Oh, we need the Lenny and Squiggy type duo. Well, let's get Lenny and Squiggy. And that seems like what they did.
And Laverne and Shirley was still in production when this movie.
Yeah, it was a hit. It was huge. Yeah. It was very big.
But Michael McKean, he's got the headband. He's kind of like a guerrilla warfare broadcaster. And Better Call Saul, legendary role, legendary. That guy grew. Katie, that guy was a jack of all trades, comedy wise, great actor. Spinal Tap.
Yeah. It's because I haven't seen a lot of those older things, so I only know him as an older man.
Yeah.
So you see that these fairly strong comedic actors had even small roles in this movie. So one thing I noticed, and Katie, edit this out if I'm completely wrong, but in the car caravan at the end of the movie, which, I got Mad Max fun vibes as well. But was Wendy Jo Sperber one of the people in the car?
Yes.
And was the brother from E.T. as well? Like where he falls through the older brother falls through the hood of the car, like they have the soft top. I could have swore he's the driver. And Wendy Jo Sperber, who was oh my God, Bachelor Party was like an 80s, late 80s.
Back to the Future. Sister in Back to the Future.
Is that Wendy Jo Sperber? Oh my goodness. Oh my
good catch.
A lot of people in Back to the Future were in this also.
Yeah, Martin
makes sense.
From Back to the Future. Yes, good catch on that one. Yeah.
Did you guys notice who the judge was?
Oh, it was Grandpa Al Lewis.
Yeah, Bob sister.
I about died. He was phenomenal. I was like, what a character this judge is. And then I was like, why does he look so familiar to me? It's Grandpa. Yeah.
We know him from, tell him where we know him from. It was not the Monsters.
He was a big he's a big 80s Howard Stern guest.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
One of Howard's one of Howard's breakout moments where they had an FCC rally in New York City, and Grandpa Al Lewis got on the mic and said F the FCC, and they had to grab the mic. It was on the live broadcast, and Howard went on later to say, that wasn't my purpose for the was to have somebody go on there and say the F word. But Grandpa Al Lewis, and by the way, it is a great role in one of the most ridiculous setup endings. I mean, with the measuring tape and, just so silly. But at that point, I was, just enjoying the movie. But it's great to see Grandpa Al for sure.
And he says on the way to go measure the cars, I could have played 8 rounds of golf.
Yes.
8 rounds of golf.
I think probably he should only play 8. He wasn't in great shape.
He still lived another 25 years. He was around for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of wondering, I'm like, this was was he pretty young when he played Grandpa? I mean, he couldn't have been.
He was probably like in his 40s while everybody
Yeah.
else was in their like 30s.
Okay.
Because I know Fred Gwynn died way before Grandpa did.
Okay. I forgot. I didn't want to pass over the lovely woman who plays Luke's long lost daughter and the love interest of Kurt Russell. Her name in the movie is Barbara Fuchs. Her actual name is Deborah Harmon. Do you guys know her from anything?
Yes.
I don't. So go ahead, Gru.
Can I say this is going to be wrong? Just one of the guys? Was she in there?
Ooh, I don't know. It's possible. You guys probably haven't seen this show. It only lasted a season or two, but it was a spinoff of Growing Pains called Just the Ten of Us.
Coach Lubbock. Remember the coach from Growing Pains? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Mike got him fired. Mike got him fired.
I definitely watched Growing Pains. The spinoff does sound familiar, but I don't really know I don't know the actress really too well beyond.
She plays his wife Elizabeth in Just the Ten of Us. Mm-hmm.
Bill Kirschenbauer. That was his name.
Yep.
That's the guy.
He was also in Patrick Swayze's first ever movie role in 1979, Skate Town, USA. I covered it on the show, and he's in that. It's also like crazy wild. It's similar to this almost. Like it's just you're like, how did this movie get made? It's just like wackadoo, but it's fun.
Believe it or not, I did watch that show. When his daughter was in Growing Pains, I was like, those are some nice looking kids. To migrate over. It wasn't a very good show, but
I don't know why I loved it.
Evan, you don't remember that at all?
The Lubbock Babes, they like had a singing group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lubbock. Wasn't anyone who went further than that? Wasn't like wasn't go from Nightmare on Elm Street in there or somebody
Marie,
like
Heather Long.
Yeah, Langenkamp. Yeah, that's wow, I remember more than I thought I would. But
this movie didn't make money, so I mean it did technically. It cost $8 million to make and grossed. Any guesses?
Ooh. So you actually say money?
This is very good. This is
technically
good because, we have a segment and Andy always guesses the
I
movie
know, I
gross.
listen.
So Andy, I'll do a little nothing worthwhile. You want to take a gander at the total box office for used cars?
So you said it didn't do well, but that doesn't mean but remember about this, you don't hear flop.
Can I ask Katie, what was the budget again? Did you say
$8 million?
Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll double it. I'll say the movie made. I'll go 16 to 20 in that range. What do you say, Gru?
I'm going to say 12.
Or a little
You
bit.
are
12. I don't think it. Because and probably your budget then would be real. I think at that time.
Agreed.
So I'm going to go a little bit less, 12 or 13 million.
Very good. Price is Right strategy. Go ahead.
Well, I have noticed you are very good at the guessing of the box office. So you're very close. 11.7. 11.7.
11.7. All right.
The reason I say it didn't do well is because nobody's heard of it. Like you guys hadn't seen this before, had you? I hadn't.
I had a long time ago. I remembered nothing. And in fact, when you said who were doing it, I actually confused it with Car Wash, which I had seen a few times.
Okay.
A very different type of movie.
You confuse this with Car Wash?
Just because
I just no in my mind, and then when I went to look for it, I'm like, oh, this is that one. Okay, yeah, but I remember very very little of it, so it was like seeing it for the first time, really.
When I went on Tubi and I saw the screen cap, I was like, oh, but I didn't really have a lot of reference to the movie either. I had a vague remembrance, but no, I didn't confuse this with Car Wash. Two wildly different movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Car Wash, a lot of fun in its own right as well.
One of the big movies that I mentioned was Airplane, came out at the same time. Used Cars, we haven't heard of it, but it has a good IMDb rating. Well, according to Zemeckis and Gale, the release of it was botched. They kind of screwed up the marketing because they moved up the release. It was originally going to be later in August or something, I want to say. And it tested really, really well with audience. In fact, the movie received the highest test audience ratings of any movie of any genre in Columbia Pictures history. But it was a disappointing box office. It was released the same week as Airplane, which was heavily promoted, and this wasn't. This wasn't, like, they moved it up and then they didn't really market it. Speaking of underrated, the New York Times called Used Cars one of the most underrated comedies of all time. And it's among American Film Institute's 2000 list of 500 movies nominated for the top 100 funniest American movies.
Wow.
So what do you
I'll
guys
take a
think?
cut.
Do you agree? What do you guys think about the movie
Yeah,
overall?
I'll take a cut. First of all, hearing the test screening thing, I find that to be pretty stunning. Hearing your comments about that, I think about, at the time, Airplane. I remember going to see it in the theater, and it was packed. So, perhaps they did botch, because I think Airplane was certainly heavily promoted, and it was a major hit. I mean, I think Used Cars, from what I understand, it sort of has like kind of a cult classic sort of feel to it. But I don't know if I'd put it in, AFI, the funniest. That's certainly high praise. And that's more of an opinion thing by the critics. But, certainly Airplane was just a genre defining. I mean, it's the satirical, it's the satirical movie that started a whole, the whole cash cow of movies. That's my thoughts.
It's very simple. When you look at the joke, like the first joke in the movie, Used Cars with the mileage thing, nobody under 16 was going to get that. At least back in 1980, they're not going to understand how funny that is and why it's funny and everything about it, the subtext of it. But they are going to laugh at Don't Call Me Shirley. And so Airplane had such a more in-your-face kind of like obvious satirical humor, which makes it one of the funniest, if not the funniest movie ever made. And it's like, does that mean that every other movie ever made is not funny? No. But if you open her up against it, if Star Maker opened up against Star Wars, guess what movie is never going to be heard from again? It's like the Chicago BR battle of 1994. The two Dr. G shows. All right. I'm going now. I'm not going.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm sorry.
But that's the whole thing, because plus this was R-rated, so it's not really for kids, and Airplane was PG, even though there was a lot of suggestive stuff in that. So that's a difference too. And yeah, I can see how Airplane would be promoted much. You don't really know how to promote this one. But it did have storyline, and he was a juggernaut back then, even then, before E.T., still after Jaws and Raiders, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's more elevated. It's interesting because there is a fair number of slapstick, situational comedic stuff. But then there's a lot of subtlety too. Like you said, just the opening scene, like you said, when he's turning the mileage back, we don't see the person. We just see the hands of the person and his like used car, pinky rings, you get a feel for, I see what's happening here. I don't know.
Yeah, we know anything. We know everything. Yeah. We need to know anything. Like a laugh that stating also when the guy says he's Polish and Rudy Kurtrussell, we haven't promoted his real last name at that point yet, but it was still funny because you knew he was full of shit. And it was funny. And that kind of humor goes over, still to this day, goes over a lot of people's heads. Airplane humor really doesn't. It's designed to hit you right square in the jaw. Cool. So that's not hard to fathom.
I did love, it wouldn't be in a movie now, but every couple he meets, when he finds out what their ethnicity or last name is, then he uses the last name. Oh, the Lopez's, I'm Rodriguez, or what? Oh, the O'Brien. Oh, I'm O'Fallon. Yeah.
The running wearing setup punchline. It's where we're going.
The Spanish folks have the slaps on the Hispanic accent. Black people, he starts talking. he starts talking jive. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to see that in today's environment. But that broad sort of humor,
Yeah, it
it
was,
still lands. It still lands.
and it somehow worked. Like those people weren't offended. They're like, oh, yeah. The clothes, I mean, just the epitome of a stereotypical used car salesman with the colorful jackets and what is the material? Polyester pants and the front Flintstone
Big
white
chunky
sport
tie. Yeah, right. Everyone had that big huge tie.
It was halfway down. They go halfway down.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was really surprised watching. I really didn't know anything about it. I thought it was going to be kind of boring, like a drama almost. And I was not expecting so much adventure and action and just the screwball satirical nature of it. I don't know. I didn't realize that's what it was. And so it was like a fun, pleasant surprise.
Just the way they're haplessly running around and just these crazy things happening for no reason whatsoever. And this was, I agree with Katie. It's just like that, and it accomplishes that goal tenfold.
Again, I mean, the standard naughty, sleazy 80s R-rated comedy, and they're kind of all, God, for lack of a better word, they're really kind of like don't have a set of ethics, but the guy across the street is the big baddie, and so at the end we forgive him. I mean, he lies to the estranged daughter. The dad's dead, and the whole movie, he covers up, and it's funny, again how she hears it on the answering machine, she's screaming. I loved the eulogy. When was it Roy? When Roy passes, and he starts talking about cars and the finest upholstery, and and he starts Chevy, Ford, and they just dump the body in the big in the car in the big ditch, and just cement over it, and we forgive him for all their sins at the end because the other guy across the street is just a little bit worse, a little bit more evil.
Well, the guy that dies is like a good-hearted person.
Yes.
And the brother is evil. And then he just,
right.
The typical shady used carsman. But of course, Kurt gets the girl in the end. The answering machine. First of all, I didn't realize there were answering machines in 1980. Second of all, it was this huge piece of equipment.
Yep. Everything was
big. Yeah, like the phones were massive, the TVs were like in 900 pounds. Now we have these thin little,
how 10 times as small. That's the weird part. They were 10 times as heavy, but 10 times as small. Rating wheels were huge. Rating wheels were really big. People used to carry those boxes on their shoulders.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun marker of time, to see the fashion and just, the different pieces of the 80s.
What did you guys think of the dog, Toby? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I love them.
I love the name.
Yeah,
it's a great name for a dog.
I feel like comedic dogs were big in the 80s, like, dogs peeing on people, and, he plays dead. The customer, he dupes the customer. You killed my dog, and the dog. It's great stuff. It's great stuff.
Well trained.
Yeah.
He was incredibly well trained. He was told to go get a screwdriver, and he's like, no, a Phillips screwdriver. And so he goes and gets
that's great little line.
So a lot of times I love animals and dogs, but in movies, I'm sort of like, meh. I'm not really a fan of kids in movies either. But every once in a while, there's a standout. And I think this dog was like, they really utilized him. He was part of the whole everything. And that scene where he plays dead, I was a little worried. I was like, is that really a dead dog? Because he was so limp and his tongue was hanging out. It was like he was dead. They dated that dog for that scene.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that this movie had a disclaimer at the end like they do now, where like no animals were hurt in the production of this movie? Listen, I don't know about used cars being in the AFI, whatever, top 100 comedies, but Toby needs to be in the AFI top 100 dogs of all time on film.
Agreed.
Love Toby.
All right. Yeah, the Vacation.
Yeah,
that's a good dog. That's a good movie dog too. But yeah, this one was great. And yeah, when he played, I was going to say that when he played Ted, that just made me laugh. It taps into the kind of humor that we don't get to see much anymore because, I mean, this movie offends literally everybody.
Mhm.
And they did that. Sure, back then they didn't have to have a disclaimer. They didn't say, "Oh my God, well, can you see this? This is going to," it just wasn't like that. It's a different time. But it just shows you how that offensive stuff can still be funny.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be evil.
Yeah, actually, I would say it didn't offend because culture was different back then. And so we loved those big, broad, kind of sweeping stereotypes and those broad sort of comedic pieces, the unethical. I don't think people got offended so easily back then. That was, sort of the fun and the charm of that era. I mean, do you think a movie like Used Cars could be made today? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, think about the scene you just mentioned where, the Spanish person, "Oh, hello, Mr. Rodriguez." Black person, their jive. I mean, every sort of, and that was just kind of the feel for the time. I mean, think of Airplane. I mean, think of all the things that they did then. And everyone in the theater, I saw it on Long Island, black people, white people, where the theater was full and everyone laughed because, it made fun lovingly of everybody.
Everyone. You had mentioned, Drew, the Iranian conflict at the time. So where it shows up in this movie is there's a commercial where Jeff actually shoots up with real, apparently, ammunition, shooting these cars up. And he's interviewed by the FBI, and he's like, "I don't know. I saw some guys with like towels on their head and weird beards." Yes. And I think there were some Iranian
scene I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's the scene I was talking about where at first you the guy in the commercial with the mustache shooting everybody up and he's like, "Come back, and then we're interviewing him and he's like this refined, he's like, I went like a college professor, like, "I really don't know. Some students were marching in the quad yesterday and they, that juxtaposition with Garrett Graham just made me laugh so hard. Exactly what we were just talking about. So that's something like saying on the conflict of the times. Mm-hmm. Could you see someone doing that today or without some group saying, "Hey, how dare you? People are dying. People are this. People are that." Like you just can't do it. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know. Nobody dares to try anymore.
Well, there's a few, but you're going to get backlash for sure. You're going to get backlash for sure. Yeah, but no, I don't think a movie like this probably would get greenlit today.
Nah.
No. The classic Cars. So I was a little confused about the student driver teacher, and I was like, what's going on? They're paying for old junk cars for the student drivers, and then Kurt tries to say, "Oh no, those really old, what we would consider now to be classic cars." He's like, "Those are the ones we should give the student drivers." Well, those ones were from Greece, the actual cars from Greece.
Yes.
I did not know that.
In retrospect, they look kind of familiar.
White convertible, and the Scorpion Mercury.
That black one with the fire on it. Yeah, the one with the fire coming out of the back. That was the bad guy's car. Yeah. Interesting. It shows you how there were a lot of like crossover as far as borrowing sets and borrowing props. I mean, someone said like last week or a couple of weeks ago, like back then Hollywood was only like 35 people. Everybody knew each other. Now it's so now it's so global that so that makes a little bit of sense. And this was obviously a low budget extravaganza.
It was so it was filmed in Mesa, Arizona, and I guess that was a real active highway, and it made filming difficult. Cheryl Rickson played the woman whose clothes got pulled off on the car hood. Do you guys know who she is? She's Australian, I guess.
I don't, but I will say this. I did recognize a very young and very vivacious, was that Betty Thomas? Who was when they did the stripper show to combat the Betty Thomas, who's practically nude. The guy kind of gives her a little on the breast there, and I'm like, she directed Private Parts. I mean, she was a major actress And I don't know too much more than what, but I imagine Private Parts might have been the zenith of her, I don't know. But I mean, a major name in Hollywood, and to see her in kind of a cameo, lowbrow kind of cameo, but I guess that was the beginnings of her career.
Yeah.
I think for its entire run, and then she also directed the Brady Bunch movie, which I think was actually a very good movie.
I think so too. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting spot there. I'd forgotten about that. Good call.
I didn't know who she was, but the Cheryl Rickson, so she was the 1977 Penthouse Pet of the Month and Pet of the Year in 1979, apparently. So
I could clearly see that controlling this.
I wondered it. That's why I was like, I wonder if they know her from that.
Of course,
this is.
You just love the shot of the dad. He leans into the television. The little kid, and the wife slaps him. And
yeah,
it's just that stuff works every.
It's that is America right there. That is America.
There's like 8 kids too. It's like just running around rampant. I'm curious if you guys have any guesses what the potential alternate title of this was. And Bob Gale thought it would have done better in the box office. I'll give you a hint. There's a slogan that Kurt says a few times.
Oh, I remember I remember there was a slogan. I'm forgetting what it was.
Like on his poster for U.S. Senate or state Senate.
Yeah. Nice something, or I do not remember. I know there was a slogan. I don't remember.
Trust me. Do you guys think that would have been a better title?
I like the title.
No, I like used cars.
Okay.
I mean, I know not know much about where going in, even though I'd seen it years and years ago. Used cars tells you. It tells you it's a comedy. It tells you basically what it's going to be about, in a race. We're about 3 used car salesmen. Mm-hmm. So I actually think it's a perfect title.
Yeah, I think I agree too. I don't know. I think they were probably just kind of 2020 looking back like, oh, how could we have made this better? So it did better at the box office. But so it wasn't originally with Columbia. Originally, they shopped it to Universal. And they had a different person in mind for Russo, Kurt's character. Any guesses? Not at all like Kurt, but would have been the perfect sleazy car salesman.
Oh, 80 comedic actor.
Very tan.
Tan. Yeah. You start at the time.
Not ever A-list, no. Probably like a B-list star.
Gabe Kaplan.
It was Freddie Prinze. No, not Freddie Prinze was probably dead by that time, I think. The same year. I don't know.
It's Larry Hagman.
George Hamilton.
Well, tan, yeah, great clue.
Yeah.
Great clue.
And like very.
I can see it a little. Bit. But I think Russell nailed it here.
I do too. Agreed. Kevin Conway passed to play Roy Fuchs. He was offered, but he passed.
I think I know Kevin Conway. He was a very identifiable character actor. Mm-hmm. There was a film called One Good Cop with Michael Keaton. He played like his lieutenant. I know I've seen him in a million other movies. Funny Farm, he was hilarious in a movie called Funny Farm.
Yeah.
That's the mailman, the crazy mailman. That was him. And that's really all I remember. So I know his name. Mm-hmm. So he obviously had 2 great roles, in my opinion. And in this one, he's great too.
A very famous actor was originally cast playing Joe Flaherty's role, but ultimately dropped out because his agent erroneously double booked him while he was filming 1941, which is not interesting.
1941. I mean, I'm thinking right off the bat, like SNL, like Aykroyd or
John Candy.
John Candy.
Is that about Candy? Yeah.
Mhm.
Remember, he had a small role in 1941. Very forgettable movie, but I remember he was in that movie. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I think this was a very fun, silly ride with the always handsome and charming Kurt Russell. But it is time to come back to the present day reality until the next Retromade episode. Evan and Andrew, I can't thank you enough for joining me to cover this lesser known Kurt movie. Do you guys have any final thoughts about used cars? And then please don't forget to tell us where we can find you guys.
Rock illusion. This was a very sure. I love it. It's unappreciated gems. So thank you so much for having us to be able to come meet you finally and talk with you on this great podcast about this terrific movie. It's always fun to talk with good people about good movies, and this was no less of an enjoyment. So thank you for having us, and I look forward to the next time we can do it again. And yeah, we can. Our podcast is Nothing Worthwhile with Moody and Groo, also VanDammit. You can find it by searching either of them. We're on our platform and the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network as well. So that's where you can find us. So yeah, I thank you very much. This was terrific.
I can't wait for the sequel, Used Cars 2, Trust Us, Book of Shadows.
Why didn't that happen? I guess Kurt became too broke. Later after that, it became like Escape from New York, and he shot to the stratosphere, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Katie, we're covering Nothing Worthwhile. The next one is Superman 4, Quest for Peace, VanDammit. VanDammit is, what did I just say? What was VanDammit again, Brew? The video game.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter.
Oh, yeah.
We'll offer if you want to come on and grist one of those. If Superman 4, we started talking about canon with the Cyborg podcast. And if you want to come on, VanDammit and talk Street Fighter, we'll message and let you know and let us know if you're interested.
Yeah, that'd be great. I love Jean-Claude. You know, all the handsome guys. Twist my arm.
It's prime Jean-Claude in 94 for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening or watching on YouTube. And if you like the show and you have not yet offered a rating or review, please do so. This is your official reminder. And until next time, be kind. Rewind.